Welcome everyone to this Friday's Franchise Coffee Chat. We have right here Charlie and Aaron from Maven IT, Lauren Dotson, my co-lead, the franchise practice leaders at TriNet, and then Keith Koo from Silicon Valley Insider. Thank you everyone for joining today on this live session. Really for today, we're going to highlight Charlie and Aaron's journey, how they got started with Maven IT, and then also, how they broke into the franchise industry. We'll also be taking some live questions as well. I have a few texts already and emails that came in about, Maven IT, really curious about how they can help the franchise industry. So, Charlie, Aaron, we'll kick it off with you. Tell us about Maven IT.
Great.
Why don't you take that one?
Yeah, thank you, William, for having us on, and Lauren and Keith as well. Great to meet everybody. So I am the president and founder of Maven IT, and basically how we started was, I've been in technology my entire career, a little over 25 years, and I've worked at different companies, obviously, and what became apparent across my career is that small, medium businesses, including franchisees, were very underserved. So I started this company so that, these smaller companies could get the level of technology service that, the larger companies are able to afford. But we can package it in a way that they can afford it, they get the great service, and that, they're secured and their networks can run, their technology can be figured out, we can be their trusted advisor. So was really an exciting time to do, to bring in this type of aspect, to small, medium businesses. And along that journey, after I started probably about a year or so, I bumped back into Charlie, which we had worked together at a previous corporation, Telecom Corp. And, he was doing his own thing, selling to small, mediums. I was doing my thing. And I'll let you tell the story, Charlie, about, kind of how we got started in the franchisee space, which eventually really brought us together and brought Charlie onto Maven.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. The franchisee space is actually why we combined our companies. I literally read an article in a local business publication that there was a Smoothie King franchisee starting in Michigan. So Smoothie King was expanding to Michigan, Ohio, things like that. I cold called them. They were very unhappy with their current providers. And, I was initially just selling on telecom. They wanted other IT services. So I got a hold of Aaron, and just one thing led to another. We landed the deal, and that led to more and more locations for this company. And we just decided to combine forces. And that's kind of how the new version of Maven IT started.
Awesome. Well, while you're on that, can you tell us what a MSP is?
Yeah, absolutely.
For those folks who don't know what an MSP or have never came across them before.
Yeah. So MSP is a managed services provider in the technology space. So for our company, what that specifically means is that we're going to help you out with your infrastructure side of your business. So meaning your firewalls, your Wi-Fi, your switching to make sure your network is working as it should, but as well that will also manage your desktops, meaning your desktop computers, your laptops, it doesn't matter, it's platform, not platform dependent, as well as your servers that you have. And we do that through a remote monitoring and management software, or RMM as they call it in the industry, where we can patch your PCs, we can install antivirus, we can back your PCs up, and then as well, we can remote in when you need help. We can remote in instantly and help you out. So the main thing there is the security aspect, right? So we want to make sure your PCs are patched and the antivirus is up to date, just as the first, thresholds, feet on the floor are going to be able to take care of you. So what happens is we have a great dashboard. We can see, that you are patched currently, that you have antivirus that is current, so that you're not at risk, or at a lesser risk, I should say. The other big thing is that we can take that, if you're familiar with Windows and with Apple, the way they patch, it kind of patches when it wants to. And you don't know, are you on the latest patches? Maybe you snoozed it and, you're going to do it later and then you forget about it. What we do is we take the complexities out of that. We say, every, say, Thursday night, 10 p.m., we're going to make sure that you're patched. All the current patches are installed on your PC or your device. And if it's not, we're going to know about it. We're going to contact you. We're going to make sure that's done. So we're actively monitoring. But we take it so that during the business day, you can do what you need to do. You are uninterrupted by technology updates, right? Mm-hmm. So we're taking that. Yep. So infrastructure and support is one big aspect of our MSP. The other aspect is voice. So, we do VoIP phone service, right? We are a registered telecom across the US. So we can bring in desktop phones, conference phones, soft phones, of course, on your mobile devices, whatever you need in the telecom space. And of course, we can route, calls how you want them to be routed, whether it's your desk phone, your mobile, both, hunt group, whatever it is, we can take care of that. And of course, Charlie and I being in telecom so long, we know that like the back of our hand, of course. So I'll bring that piece in. Then we handle IP security cameras. So you need any help on the, you want to monitor your business inside, outside, mobile app, web app, we've got you covered there with IP security cameras. And then we do
door access.
Door access is the other one. Door access, yep. So now you want to let people in and out of your business. You want to open your door with an app. You want to be able to monitor all your doors remotely. We do that through through a partner. And then lastly, email. So, the infamous, Google's G Suite or Office 365. We're authorized resellers of both. So really, if you look at it as a whole, our MSP has you covered end to end, and we can help you with any of those. But of course, you have challenges in your business. We're going to help you figure out which solutions fit where.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So kind of curious, with those licenses, do you get discounted rates if they were to partner with you?
Yeah, so licenses meaning for the office or for the email, or you're just talking about just in general?
Maybe let's talk about like all the services that you offer.
I see. You want to take that, Charlie?
Yeah. So it's anything that touches a network we'll manage. And just for instance, question, I think the add-on to Aaron's, it's you can compare and contrast us to like a break fix provider where we're there all the time. With a break fix provider, you're only calling them when something goes wrong. That's really the big difference between managed services and the old legacy way. As far as discounted, we buy things. We get access to better rates than the general public can get because we have wholesale relationships and reseller relationships with these providers. So, and the more services that customers buy from us gives us more flexibility to save even more money. So our happiest customers are those that get everything from us. Because we can manage it all. Something goes wrong, we're the ones they call. They don't have to figure out who to call when something breaks. They call us, and we get them better discounts. So
yeah, I think that's an important point there, Charlie, about if you have one person for your security cameras, you have another person doing your firewall. When something goes wrong, they're pointing at each other, right? So we take that pointing away, of course, and then we solve the problem for you. So like Charlie said, it's a one call, pick up, call, done. It's going to be solved.
I think also, something, oh, sorry, Will. Something that we had spoken with Charlie about, I think it was last week, all my weeks are blending together now though, is creating that infrastructure in the very beginning. And, this is something that these franchisees and multi-franchise business owners, they don't know about IT. I don't know anything about IT. I couldn't tell you, I could barely figure out how to turn my computer on most days. So it's coming in and maybe talk a little bit about, Smoothie King as an example, because we talked a lot about them, Charlie, and just kind of what you guys were able to do with them as an emerging brand as they continue to grow. And I think it's also, when you look at having multiple franchisees, it's streamlining what there's going on in the tech side also on the back end. So your point of having them kind of go like this at each other, it's also as a franchisee or franchisor, how are you making sure that things are streamlined across the board? So maybe talk a little bit about Smoothie King and how you guys help them specifically, because I know there was a ton of great things that have come out of that relationship.
Sure. I think the streamlining and the standardization is what's important. again, we started off with Smoothie King with a specific franchisee, a multi-unit franchisee, and they, things progressed from there. We ended up meeting other franchisees, and then we got introduced to corporate, and the story kind of unfolded. And what we do, I think the real value is that, as a brand, Smoothie King can say we have this trusted technology provider that we're now seeing standardization from store to store to store to store. So, and especially when you're opening a new store, if you see what a franchisee goes through with the opening, from the time they sign their they sign their franchise agreement, then everything starts. They got to go find a place to house the store, and then they got to get a lease, and then they got to do permitting, and they got to do all that, and then construction starts, and the project plan is just daunting, right? And a big chunk of that project plan is the technology. Obviously technology plays a bigger role today, and more every year. So we can take a big chunk of that project plan. We estimate that probably 40-50% of the project plan, and we just take it from the franchisee and we handle it. All right. So, and we know, especially with the brands that we've done multiple stores with, and there's more than Smoothie King, but just take them as an example. We know exactly how they like to do things, and we know the order of operations. We know the things that can go wrong, so we can get ahead of them. So it just brings a lot of confidence and competence, and just standardization process. Yeah. And I guess it's never going to be easy. But
we can make it look easy.
We make it look easy.
Better than on their own.
Exactly. And it gets easier every time. So, in fact, this morning, Aaron and I were at a location here, probably 20 minutes from the office in Royal Oak, Michigan. They're doing their grand opening next week. And, we just stopped in, and Aaron was finishing a few things up and just see how things going. And it was just running like a well-oiled machine. And that's, the franchisees that take that approach just have a better and easier time, and they can focus on making smoothies, and we can focus on managing technology, and it's just less worry for them.
And to add to that, Charlie, so we deal with multiple franchisees within the Smoothie King organization, of course. This particular one, everybody does things just a little bit different, but we know how this one likes to do it. So I know, for instance, the HME, they like to have a network drop there ahead of time, so that the guy, when he goes to set up the HME, doesn't have to worry about running his own drop, or where does he plug it in, and how does everything work. So we took that on. We took that over for the franchisee to say, listen, we can put that network drop for the HME in, no problem. But even taking it further, now when I look at drawings and plans for the franchisee, I notice sometimes that they have a recipe printer that goes in the kitchen, and the architects like to put it in a different spot sometimes, but I know where they like to have it. So ahead of time, I can say, hey, John, we need to put it over here in the kitchen. I see it's somewhere else. So, we get that approved, and, they're appreciative that we're watching. We have their back. There's, like Charlie said, there's so many things going on during construction for a new store that, hey, we can take that on. We learn it. We know it. We can make sure it's smooth.
Hey guys, it's Keith. So this is really cool in a number of ways. I came out of large enterprise and used to set all this stuff up for large companies, so not small business. And usually the barrier, when I was at Intuit, for instance, we were talking a lot in terms of servicing our customers on the small business end, that how did they get these types of enterprise class IT tools, and in a customized or standardized fashion, but also customized, which sounds like what you guys are doing. One of the things that I encourage terminology that we use is core versus context. And this really applies to the franchise industry, that you have a core business. Smoothie King has their business. And so anything that they can get off their plate, and it's not just IT, but it's also HR, it's also just any other things that doesn't add to you scaling your company, is something that should be fair game to look at. But one thing that would be interesting, and we do this all the time in industry, is how do you help a customer articulate the savings? And I usually generate conversations in our consulting practice between hard savings and soft savings. A lot of times, initially, it's more of a soft savings than a hard savings. Although in terms of IT services, if you're actually passing on discounts you receive at volume, it could actually be both hard and soft savings. How do you actually go through that process?
I'll take that one. I mean, I think the soft savings is huge, right? Things like, what are you spending on maintenance for these things? If you're If you have a managed service, that's just part of your monthly payment, and you get budget certainty out of that as well. So, there's the soft savings of, for instance, every product, every service that we provide, we back it up. You get free phone support, unlimited free phone support. So if they get any questions, we handle it for them. We don't charge them for that. If something breaks, we back up everything that we install, we manage, so we will replace it for free. So there's that kind of that no worry technology aspect to it. So that's all kind of in the soft savings, not even to mention the less stress you have to deal with, with everything else with your business. But yeah, the hard savings, there's a lot of areas. One, for instance, we offer free internet procurement or internet brokerage services to our customers. Aaron and I were in telecom, for a long time, combined about 53 years, I believe. So we worked at telecoms, and we know the games they play, and I guess I'd be careful calling them tricks of the trade, but there's a lot of things that happen in the telecom world that aren't in the best interest of the end user, the customer. So it's from that perspective alone, we have access to about 250 providers nationwide just for internet access. And we get access to rates and discounts and promotions that aren't available to the general public. And we keep a database of those things. So we know this location, we can run a pre-qualification. We know who's available. We know what they're offering today. And, today it might be better to use, ISP-A as opposed to ISP-B just because of the promotions they're offering. And we know that real time. That's something that just the end user, the small business is not going to have access to. So, we've tracked things. Our average customer, when they use us for internet procurement, saves about 33% from doing it themselves. So that's a real hard savings, and that's going, that's ongoing. Everyone knows you got to pay your cable bill every month, right? And and so that's something we bring to the table just from that piece alone. And then when you get in, kind of move from the outside to the inside, because we buy these things wholesale, you get savings immediately from that. And then we do the multi-product discounts with our customers. So the more you buy from us, the bigger your discount gets. And then lastly, we also do multi-location discounts. So our biggest customers get an additional discount for adding more locations and giving us referrals as well. So, we obviously try to motivate them to give us more business. Every product, give us all the technology, give us all the locations, give us some referrals, and you're going to save the most money. So there's all those different opportunities with franchisees for that.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
You know what I love about what you said before was it's very similar to the TriNet model. And I noticed that Lauren was laughing, or not laughing, smiling about this, right? You're using a multi-vendor approach, now you're like, having to go here for ISP, then here for CCTV, and then maybe POS management, and then ongoing fixed services, right? And, that's extremely aligned to what the TriNet solution is. We're providing that full service solution. And to Keith's point before, core versus context, right? You want to focus on building and scaling your brand, right? And so, yeah, it's extremely aligned. We were also talking about this backstage before we came live. It's also great that our colors are here aligned as well, supporting
I love it.
The TriNet colors, the Silicon Valley colors, and the Maven IT colors. Yeah, go for it.
I was going to say, like, one more thing too, when you look at it, just like HR or payroll or, time and attendance, for example, for a franchisee, it's a necessary part of what they need to pay for. And when you're looking at the P&L and operating expenses, et cetera, cost of goods, those are the kind of things that play in there. And Maven IT is very similar to that, but giving them a way of controlling that spend when it comes to their IT, having one vendor who has their back. Also, I don't know if you guys know, but Maven IT can even go international. So when you look at, as a franchise owner, am I looking to expand internationally? And I need to know, how do I set up, being able to call you guys directly and have that level of support of service for everything, as you mentioned, from the CCTV to the internet to how are we supposed to set up? And I know we talked about this too, Charlie, just, when working with a franchisor and then they're opening up multiple franchisees and being able to meet with those franchisees and say, okay, this is how corporate is doing it. This is how the other locations are doing it. Understanding those different vendors and how they are already partnering together. So for example, if it was a franchisor who's working with both Maven IT and TriNet, we would know exactly how to communicate together to give them that proactive guidance. And I think that's something, and maybe speak a little bit more to this, but like when I'm working with a franchisee who's brand new, they want that guidance and how do I do this and what is best practice, right? So yeah.
Yeah, I think best practice is the right term, and I think it's a little risky and difficult for franchise brands, to have mandatory providers. Just like you guys are, very well aware of all the compliance issues, but making us a preferred or a trusted provider, right? That's a little different, and it strengthens their brand to say, look, we have this trusted technology provider that has these best practices, and this is the way they do it. And not only can they do it for you, they're gonna they'll walk you through the process. They'll take away that concern, that stress that comes with all the technology and opening a store. And it just makes if you're wanting to become a franchisee and you're shopping around which brand you want to get involved in, and you got brand A who says you're on your own, and brand B says we have these trusted providers, it's a pretty easy decision at that point. And
it's proven.
Yeah.
They know it works. I mean, they're not going to tell their franchisee to work with somebody that they don't think knows how to handle their brand and their business.
Right.
So when they're working with you guys, they know, okay, we already know that you know how to set our franchisees up for success. We've already worked on this P&L, and we know that this pricing is going to work perfectly for this, proven model, which I think Mandar said it a few weeks ago when he was on our show talking about how investing in a franchise is a proven investment, meaning if you do what they tell you to do, you will receive, you'll get that back tenfold. And that's how you become more successful and open more locations and work with you guys and get bigger discounts as I grow. So yeah, amazing.
Absolutely.
We have some questions flowing in. Are you ready for them?
Sure, bring them on.
Yes.
Charlie, all right, awesome. So this is a question from Grit Equity. What would be a good time for franchise locations to engage with you before they open?
Let me take it.
Yeah.
I think Aaron and I talk about this all the time. We've been asked this exact question.
Totally.
It's right after you sign the lease. Actually, you know what? I would even say before you sign the lease.
Yeah.
Let us find out if you have a couple potential locations that you're looking into. Let us find out what the internet situation is in those locations. Meaning, because a million things can happen. You run pre-qualification, you find out there's only one provider here, and this provider tends to be pricey or have these issues. So you got location A, you got location B, could have 3 providers. Location C could have more. And the second piece is we'll know if construction is required, which construction will lead to delays and extra costs as well. And we found with the stores we've done, the number one factor that delays a store opening is the availability of internet. All right. So
Interesting.
not the most forthcoming companies, so you'll get a quote and then you'll get through their system, and then they'll come back a few weeks later and say, oh yeah, by the way, we have to do construction and it's going to cost you $30,000 and it's going to take 90 days. So you got to love the business model. Pay us so we can give you service, and then that construction leads to us being able to offer more people the same service. But that's what happens when you're a monopoly, right? But that aside, that issue alone, I think, is the number one source of frustration, delays, problems that people run into. So, even as you're considering locations, that shouldn't be your only factor with the location, obviously. I mean, if you got a location where 2 cars drive by a week but it's got great internet, you don't want that either. But that is a factor, and it's an important factor, especially when you're looking at timeliness. So that's the time to get involved with us. Let us do the research. Again, we do that for free. We'll find all that out for you, and then once we find out where the best internet situation is, you make your decision, and then we hit the ground running. We're ready to go.
Yeah, and I think a big assumption for a lot of these franchisees, or just people in general, really SMBs as well, is that internet will be available where I place my location, and it's not like electric and gas, right? It's there can be delays, and as Charlie said, we've run across it many times, unfortunately. But of course, we're in your corner, and we're going to help you. If that is the location you selected and there is a build out, we will do our best to get those costs reduced, and we do have significant success with getting those costs reduced. So we are in your corner. We are here to help you no matter what your situation, but given the choice, please engage us early so we can help you choose the best location.
Yeah, I think that's huge. Like if your internet doesn't work, you can't sell anything, right? You can't run your point of sale system.
Your POS is like really integrated to that, it's required to process, credit cards,
exactly.
through the internet. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not opening it up without internet. And just to add on, we can get alternate internet too. We have customers that while they're waiting for construction, will get, for instance, satellite internet. And there's good providers out there. One of our providers, it actually does the internet for Air Force One, for instance. So probably pretty solid.
Wow.
And so we can bring in other alternatives in the meantime, so you can open, and then maybe you switch over to the one when it's built out or when it's not. But it just gives the franchisee a little bit more leverage too. You're not at the mercy of the big bad internet providers that tend to rule the world, right? So now you can fight back, which is great.
You're giving me flashbacks you're giving me flashbacks when I was doing M&A integration for Cisco, the .com era, and we had the benefit of money. Literally, money was no object. So trying to get connectivity into our acquired locations, say in Dallas or what have you, and the amount of money we were spending to make sure we had redundancy.
Yeah.
So it's great that, in my view, that having services like yours that you can actually give almost enterprise-like experience to your clients. In a lot of cases, when I say enterprise experience, you don't need that much expense to get something set up. You will have an adequate or more than adequate amount of services now because of the way that the internet grew up, the infrastructure grew up, and so now you have expertise that can go to the small, medium businesses, which is great. There was so much complexity back then, but a lot of these are almost turnkey in partnering with companies like yours.
Yeah, absolutely. I mentioned this. Some of these providers, we can get them up and running in 3 to 5 days. From the time we do it, if we know that there's an issue with the hardwired internet or whatever. So and that stuff works for redundancy as well. So we can advise them, and we really do act as an advisor, almost like a broker. And just on the internet subject, we also manage the install for them, so they don't have to call their the ISP 15,000 times. When this guy going to show up? We got to tie. Since if we're doing the internet and we're doing the rest of the infrastructure, we can just manage the whole process. So our project plan can just flow based on the internet installation, and we automatically adapt. So it works out very well.
Do you charge separately for what I'll call implementation, or is that all part of a managed service once you get under contract?
We have, our pricing, it varies depending on the provider, and because it's our company, we have a lot of flexibility, which is always nice. But there's generally a charge for the installation and setup separate from the ongoing service. That being said, we for instance, with cameras, we'll meet the customer where they are as well. So we have created pricing plans. Some are more interested in monthly charges. Some are more interested in paying more upfront, and vice versa. So we do have that flexibility, which we use in our pricing. So, and it varies, like I said, it varies by franchisee. We know some of our bigger franchisees, we know exactly how they like it. And it's to the point now where they know the cost for their technology is going to be X for every store. And so now they got budget certainty, because we've dealt with them long enough now. They know what it's going to look like, and they know, and there's no surprises, so that, I think that brings that other level of confidence and just standardization that they enjoy.
Well, you know what? I think that kind of leads into an email that I received from Stan, and it reads, I can't post the whole thing on here because it only allows me for 200 characters, but I'd like to know how Maven IT can assist my clients who have chronic problems with their ISP, ? This includes bad pre-quals, which indicate services are in place at the address with no build-outs, only to find that at the 11th hour, there are facility issues which prevent a timely install. Oftentimes, the provider will have the franchisee over a barrel and require hefty construction costs to move forward. This causes great resentment, huge costs not previously budgeted for sometimes as high as $20,000, as well as delayed grand openings. ISP has become a four-letter word to countless franchisees. There has to be a better way. I think Stan might be either a broker or a franchisor, but I think this is a really great question, and it talks to truly the service level that you're able to provide. I think you've already touched on it a few times already about the level of service that you have to offer.
Yeah, I think we have a great use case or a case study, and let Aaron walk through it. I mean, this is, well, we find it interesting. Maybe it's not, but we're going to nerd out on you a little bit with internet. Something that just happened a couple months ago. So you guys will love this.
So Stan sounds a little frustrated, but we can put him at ease with the story. So we had a franchisee in St. Augustine, Florida area, and they were opening a new location, and we did the ISP pre-qualification for them and said, yeah, no problem, we can get you in, go ahead and schedule. So of course we go ahead and schedule it, as we should. And then the ISP, I'm not going to name them, big one, everybody knows them. ISP came back and said, oh, guess what? We need to do construction, which, okay, up to a certain amount, the ISP will cover the construction costs. So we weren't really worried because it came through the pre-qual system as positive, and we were feeling pretty good. So they then send somebody out to do what they call a site survey, where they look at all the, where is the activity coming in, how far to the building, all that, what's it going to cost. They come back and say, oh, listen, we have no connectivity there. It's going to take $30,000 of construction costs to get this done. And of course, like, oh, that's ridiculous. How can that be? So we work with the franchisee. We get, drawings of the building, because we know that there was some of this was built out so that it would make the transition much easier. So we go through, submit that, and they're still coming back $30,000. Well, at this point, Charlie and I know, there's no way that this should be. So we have contacts on our side of the house and the exec level. So we utilize those, phone in on this one and say, listen, guys, we need some help on this one. This doesn't sound quite right. Can you please, send somebody else to go take another look and go through all that rigmarole, spend, countless hours on that. But we do that because we want to help our customers. So finally, they agree. They send out another site survey, and they come back with, oh yeah, we can just add another node on that, current infrastructure there. And by the way, no construction costs done. We said, great. How long? That sounds great. How long is it going to take, right? Oh, it should take 15, 20 days. That still sounds kind of out there a little bit. So we stay on them. It was done within 7 days. It was finished. Franchisee was connected. So we avoided $30K in costs. We avoided, 90 days of construction and delay, and we got it all, zipped up. It did, of course, take some time to go through this process, but much quicker than actually going through full construction and that. But again, if the franchisee was to do this on their own, they didn't have the contacts, they wouldn't know the path to follow, that type of thing. They might have been on the hook for, this certain amount. Right, so we'll avoid that in the end. Which great story. So,
I mean, it was only 30,000. I don't know why they'd be worried about it, but think about that. God. I know you're ready to open your store, and I found out you got to cut a check for 30K, just because construction is needed. Yeah, I mean, it didn't turn out it wasn't, but we counted the emails that we sent related to this one issue, and it was 137 emails before we finally resolved the situation. So. Imagine being a franchisee and having to go through that. It's just and we don't charge for that service. I mean, we do get a commission from the provider for signing them up, but we're not running our business on these commissions. It's just something we do because it avoids problems for our customers, and it lets us control the process a little better as well. Plus, we know the telecoms. I mean, we came from that world, and we know how things operate. So. That's one of the big benefits.
So how often do you get into a situation where the last mile really just isn't built out yet? And I think it's in two dimensions. One is if the company, a franchise, let's say, has already picked the site out, or I think ideally they come to you before they pick a site out, because there are corner cases where the infrastructure just isn't there. What do you do in those cases?
It's common, and it's even less in last mile. Like in this particular one, there was a Publix grocery store in the parking lot, but this was one of the outpost buildings in the parking lot that they built afterwards. And the whole basis behind the construction cost of $30K was that they had to bore into the parking lot, run the lines, and bring it over to the outpost building, which turned out not to be true at all.
Yeah.
But that's what they said. So that's, even those kind of things can happen. So you're like, the franchisee's like, well, I'm next to a Publix, I got to have internet at the Publix. Well, they do, but they don't have it across the parking lot. And that's where the cost comes in, so run into it all the time. And this understanding of this came from our previous experience in the telecom world. We used to run into it all the time there as well. So it's just the kind of things that happen. And if you don't know that world, you're going to fall victim to it. And it's very important to us that our customers don't fall victim to that kind of activity. So
you just said it like so perfectly, right? You know this piece so well, so you can handle it. And I think also the fact that you guys both have experience, just like Keith does in this, is just so valuable for your clients that you're working with, because you know how to kind of be proactive about these situations and get in front of them. The example of the Publix parking lot, or $30,000 if a franchisee had to write that out of pocket opening a store, it could really be painful, especially because a lot of franchisees, especially if they're starting out, this might be their retirement or their savings that they have put together in order to, start their own business.
Exactly. That's a lot of smoothies.
It's a lot of smoothies. A lot of smoothies.
That's true.
Yeah.
So John has a comment. John E. And I'm sorry if I'm butchering this. Lapham? Okay. The customer technology stack. What are the products you provide, and how do you provide them on ongoing support on these services? We've touched on this already, but I think he has like a follow-up here. Also, what about the redundancies for location on the internet side? What do you use? SD-WAN speaking. Can you elaborate on your stack you provide? Thank you. If I don't know what SD-WAN means, but if you could please kind of start off with that, maybe that'll help.
I think the outside-inside conversation fits here.
Yeah. So SD-WAN stands for software-defined WAN, and it's basically having different internet connectivity to give you access on the WAN side, so wide area networks on the external side of your business. So the product that we use for connecting you SD-WAN wise, or just externally to your ISPs, is Cisco Meraki equipment. So the reason we use Cisco Meraki is because they are obviously, Meraki started out, a small guy doing access points, and I don't know, everybody knows the story, but they grew through the system, right, acquired by Cisco for billions, which was great. So I've been using their stuff since they were doing just access points, because it's easy to manage. It's great technology. Now partnered with Cisco is even better. But the thing is, their technology works. We love their firewalls. We love their switches. We love their Wi-Fi. We use them at many of our customers, and it is our go-to technology. But on the speaking SD-WAN, on the firewall side, which is your buffer between your internet service provider and the outside world, internet service provider to the inside of your network, sits this firewall from Cisco Meraki. So we have most of their devices have dual WAN ports. And I don't want to get too technical, but it means you can have two internet service providers connected. So maybe one we do some cable company, and maybe on the second one we do a satellite provider in case that wire gets cut from the cable company. Now we can go out satellite so you have connectivity, or maybe it's LTE, for example. Either way. Mm-hmm. But what happens is with our product here, with Cisco Meraki product, when that coax connection gets cut or goes down, it automatically transitions over to the satellite product. So the franchisee doesn't even know that they're on this other connectivity. They just keep conducting operations as they normally would, so no interruptions. Very powerful there. So it keeps you going without any intervention, nothing to do. On our side of the house, we get a notification on our dashboard that says, hey, this franchisee is on their secondary connection. Now that's our trigger to call the franchisee and say, listen, you're on, just so you know, you're on backup internet. But B, it triggers us to call the ISP for them to say, listen, we're down, what's the situation, what's the estimated time till you get this fixed, et cetera, et cetera. So again, franchisee side, keep making your smoothies, doing what you do, and we're gonna handle the back end technology and make sure that you're where you need to be.
How many times you walk into like a Starbucks and the line's back and the credit card machine's not working and people just get out and they go to another Starbucks, right? With this type of solution, it doesn't happen. Most of the time we call them, tell their internet's down, they don't even realize it's down because you have the automatic failover and you just keep running your business and we can take care of stuff on the back end.
That's great to have a backup solution. Yeah. Look, did you know that? Do you know of or are aware of the Meraki solution or the product?
Which product?
The Cisco Meraki product. So I'm not sure if you know this, Charlie and Aaron. Keith did a long stint at Cisco.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No, we heard him saying
yeah.
If it was involved with that piece of it, though, yeah, because we love Cisco Meraki for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Meraki was after I stopped doing integration. I was doing deals at that point, but yeah, Meraki is a great product. I mean, there were many. One thing that I don't hide is that I'm actually technology agnostic. The key is not focusing on what the technology is, as long as it's from a stable vendor. It's if you're going to go through a group like Maven, you actually shouldn't even have to worry, other than you put your trust in them, and they should be able to have a number of solutions for you. In my consulting firm, which is boutique, and I help large companies figure their technology issues out, both deals and operations. I go through the same process. It's just I'm not dealing normally with small businesses, right? So I understand this process fairly well. Is that when you outsource or out-task, we talked about that in previous shows, you don't need to dictate to your service provider what solutions there are because they're on the hook. And, we used to have this term, I'm a little bit older than William and Lauren, dial tone, right? So in the old days, you had AT&T, you had these other phone companies. We just said you pick up the phone, you get dial tone, it works, right? Do you care? Did you care back then, like where it was running off of, who's the carrier? It just works. So same thing is when I hear about, and I don't get me wrong, I love Cisco. I actually own the Cisco alumni group for Facebook. So I'm not saying that it's a bad product. They're great products, but you shouldn't have to care. That's the whole reason why you're out tasking your IT services to Maven or another company. And just like for TriNet, if you are out tasking your HR, your benefits, your compensation, same thing. As long as you've got your requirements met, why is it important to you?
I absolutely agree with that. And it is. You view it as our job to make sure we're bringing the right technology for the right problem. And so we're constantly vetting new technologies, all the time, hopefully before we run into a problem with that we can't solve, just so we can be ready and have that in our portfolio when the customer needs it. So that's a big part of our role, is to make sure that we got the toolbox ready. So when something comes up,
Now a little bit more on my soapbox, it would be up to the Maven guys' best to preserve the reputation that they're only dealing with reputable vendors, because what happens is they do have an outage and it's because of something they chose. So let's just say, I don't want to name a company because I'll probably get myself into trouble. Let me put it this way. As we speak, SANS Institute, the world's most foremost known cybersecurity training firm, they had a breach this week of 28,000 records. They suffered a phishing attack, which is the most basic thing. So imagine they're a service provider.
Wow.
And they're the ones who tell every other company how to remediate. This is the cost of a breach. These are the things you need to do to fix your issue. Well, they just had a reputational damage because they themselves suffered a breach. That's pretty embarrassing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I mean, if you can't, you start, you want to be able to trust your provider, and something like that happens, you kind of lose that trust, and it's unfortunate. And those things are going up. I mean, phishing attacks, ransomware. They're not just focusing on the big guys anymore. They're going after everybody, and you get ransomware on your point of sale or something like that. You're done. You are done.
Or a company's cell phone that has been set up that now has access to everything within the organization.
Lauren's speaking on behalf of how many hours we've spent, each individual 3,500 employees strong at TriNet, on our PHI, our HIPAA, compliance training.
He's side note, but he's saying that because both William and I were on the bad list for waiting too long to take it. So we literally did do our IT training yesterday, and we do know now that everything that we are doing could potentially affect everything. So I think it becomes even more
Brand,
important
reputation,
that they use
Right. It's important.
Yeah,
I scored a 90. I didn't score it 100%.
I got 100.
There we go.
But yes, we understand it's extremely important. So we have another question from the audience here. Jackie asks, do you have any special offers available for franchisees?
Yes.
I love this question. I can't wait for you to ask.
We have a lot. Like I said, one of the things we kind of already touched on is, one, we do the free internet brokerage and we'll do that for all of our customers. But for franchisees in particular, we will bundle services based on what we know they need at each location. So that's where, if you buy a la carte, there's a certain price. This is not a new concept. I didn't make it up. But when you buy bundles, you automatically get discounts. And, and the more you buy, the bigger discount you get. I mean, that's really how it works. So, and we do that for a lot of reasons. One, we want our customers to save money, obviously, but we want all the technology because it just honestly makes our jobs easier as well.
Right. And more efficient for them. If you're running it all. Exactly.
So we try to package it in a way that helps them make their best decision, at the same time save some money. So, it's more packages and bundles for franchisees is the way I would look at it. Mm-hmm. We have the same products available for regular SMBs as opposed to franchisees, but for the franchisees, we know how to put it together so it makes sense for them. So.
Yeah, and also, kind of bordering on franchisee and SMB, we do go through a full analysis. If we're not familiar with the company, we can go through a full analysis, right, to say, here's a roadmap, and we'll ask you these questions. We'll come out with this nice 4-box roadmap that says, here's the areas we need to focus on. Then we can zoom in, and these are the pieces that we need to get to. Of course, we don't need to get there today, but here's the roadmap over time of where we need to go. So at least they can understand. Here's where you sit today. Here's where you can be tomorrow. Here's how we're going to get there. So we take the time to do that, so you understand.
Yeah, we actually will. We might even turn down a customer if they're not willing to go through the discovery because we don't like flying blind. Yeah, and we don't want something to happen that we could have prevented. So just take a little extra time in the sales process. Let us nerd out, and go through it, and then come up with the roadmap for you. We can serve you.
So I'm geeking out right now. I agree. Sorry. What were you saying? Something?
Yeah. I was saying, Tony Winkowski, if he's still on and he's listening to this, of what you said, Charlie, he's gonna geek out about that because he doesn't want to go through discovery if the prospective client is not engaged as well. But I'd love for you to also touch on, the franchisor. Jackie, I know you had mentioned. Are there any special offers for franchisees? I would really recommend maybe bringing this concept up to your franchisor, introducing the franchisor to Maven IT, right? And Charlie and Aaron, if you could share like how you would partner up with the franchisor in order to help out their franchise system.
I think we've been through this a bit already, so. There's two ways of getting in, right? You get in through the franchisee or the franchisor, and we'll take either one, obviously. But what we do, once you understand it's everything, it's from their process, and the order of they do things, but also understanding the layouts of their locations and what they need, the technologies they're using, all of those things. The way to say we understand all these things, we understand how you particularly do business, and now we can customize our approach based on your brand, and I think that's really the key. We keep on bringing Smoothie King because they were our first and closest to our heart, I guess, right now. Absolutely. But it's a list, and it works the same every time, and there's no mystery anymore. There's no uncertainty. We know they start looking for location. We start looking for internet. They sign the lease. We get the construction documents and we're off to the races. And we know that they're going to need, cameras here, here, and here. They're going to need this door access here. They're going to have this firewall. We need to set up this point of sale system that they use in a certain way. I mean, we know the order it's going to happen, and it happens now, because we've done it so many times. So I think the value prop to the franchisor is, again, that standardization. You still, when we talk to the franchisors, they get frustrated with franchisees that want to do things their own way, and if that franchisee does something that goes wrong, it isn't the franchisees that's getting the bad press, it's the brand. And that's, we've seen it. Everything like that guy taking the bath in the Taco Bell sink or whoever. It wasn't Taco Bell. I don't want to get in trouble, but I'm talking about. They got blamed for that. So something goes wrong with their technology, something doesn't work. Someone goes into a store and they can't get what they want. They're not talking about a franchisee. They're talking about the brand. So I think it's that certainty, is that that confidence that things are going to work, just strengthen their brand, for everybody. So.
Well, and think about it too, obviously, again, talking about Smoothie King, what we've been able to do to help their corporate IT group, pre-Maven IT coming in and helping with, their the point of sale installs and the other things we do. Franchisee was left to do their own thing, hire whoever they wanted to, whatever they needed to get their POS installed and everything done. Post Maven IT coming in and starting to help out, the amount of issues, the help desk calls, the troubles have significantly decreased. There's a number there. You probably don't know it offhand, Troy. We've got a number at some point, but it's significant because we're doing everything the same way. We know how to deal, with the people, we have our techs come out, that our techs are now trained. Our techs are nationwide. So you're not relying on, some other IT company, in Idaho to do it the same way the IT company in, Massachusetts does it. You know what I mean? So we get that consistency. We can bring the help desk ticket levels way down and make it, more profitable essentially for the franchisor to conduct business and do their thing. And the one other thing I want to hit on real quick is that we can also help with special projects. So say you want to try to, do something new, like, we have a lot of the franchisees that have drive-throughs that, they want to have Wi-Fi on the outside of their building so they can walk out with a tablet and they can take orders from the windows, right? So we can help integrate that infrastructure. But again, you're going to want to test it. You're going to have some pilot stores. We can do those special projects. We can help create those scopes of work and go through and say, okay, here's exactly what's going to happen. Here's how we're going to test it. Then we'll hand it off to you as the franchisor, your corporate group, and have you test however you want to test. And then we can make, additions, changes, and then we'll go do another 5. And we'll keep, iterating until we get it to where we want to get it. But then, now you don't have to worry about finding techs, having, the equipment, blah, 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 to get in and, help run those pallets. We'll run those pallets for you from the implementation side. You just have to decide what do you want to do, and we'll help you achieve it.
And then I think the last thing is then you can use us as a second level support too. So if something goes wrong in a store, they call in the franchisee brand help desk. They're not quite sure what happened. We've been through it. Then they kick it off to us, and we can usually figure it out and fix it remotely as well. So we've seen everything go wrong. We know it, and so we can usually, without sending someone out, take care of the problem. And if we have to take care of the problem, we have a tech that can go out there that's familiar with the store anyway. So, so those are all the benefits.
I think you guys, I think in addition to that, as a benefit, something that you guys said before is just taking the time to really, not even say this, but diagnose what's going on and understand the company and asking all those questions as a consultant to get, okay, here's the best way to do this. Because I think, all of us know that no company, no franchise, no franchisor, they're not all the same. They're all a little bit different, right? So how they do things is going to be a little bit different. And with your experience, you're able to put them in that best position to be successful as they grow, because you've seen all of the things that could go wrong and what could go right, and those best practices. If I was a franchisor, you'd be the first people I want to be speaking to when it comes to how do I make sure that my IT across the board is consistent in every single state or country in a situation, so that my franchisees can be successful. And we talk about compliance till we're blue in the face all the time on this show, because to your point, somebody taking a bath in a sink, it'll affect the entire brand, and therefore every single franchisee who is tied to that brand as well, and their income.
Absolutely. Even things like, you take like for instance, a power outage, right? So your power goes out, store goes down, comes back up, all of a sudden things aren't working. Now you got to figure out why it isn't working. We kind of know the order to check things, and we can get it up and running quickly. I mean, every minute you spend not running credit cards, that's just bad for the business, right? So obviously nowadays, with everything going on, it's important, that you can process everyone's payments as often as possible, as consistently as possible. So.
Yeah, and less cash. People don't want cash right now with everything going on with COVID. So we're becoming, I mean, I'm seeing it literally at, I think I was at, and I don't remember where I was. I was at some fast food place with my daughter last week, and there literally was a sign that said, please do not use cash unless that's your absolute last case. They want you to use your card or your smartphone in order to pay. So if you don't have your IT up and going, how are you supposed to do that? And then I'm thinking about from a payroll perspective and all of these things, like your general ledger, because there's a ripple effect that if that goes down, what does that cause to the whole back end of the business? It's huge.
Yeah. So it becomes a repeatable, scalable process for us. They call us, we had a power outage, the point of sale system not working. We run through our checklist and we get them up and running quickly, as opposed to some guy running around unplugging stuff and plugging it back in. We can help them. It's that level of certainty that I think makes it worth having one provider manage it all for you, and on a managed service. If you're not doing the managed service and then you got to call someone every time something breaks, who are you even going to call? You don't even know what's broken, right? So you want to have someone come out and guess. You want to call the people that know, and that's really the value prop.
Yep. I also want to touch on one last thing here, Jackie. For you, my recommendation would be talk to your franchisor, introduce Maven IT, and say, hey, look, maybe it'd be good to have Maven IT on the FDD, right? And then the franchisor and Maven IT can do a pre-negotiation, and then maybe have pre-negotiated rates on the FDD as well, going from there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But we're coming up to the hour, 4 minutes left. We have a really cool comment here from the audience. And that's from a really good friend of ours, Paul Tran, who was on our very first YouTube live stream. I've been told by Birdie that Charlie can sing.
No.
Can I fact check this?
Let me correct it. It's off a little bit. One, I cannot sing. I can play an instrument, several instruments, but I cannot sing, and I would not do that to you guys. So if there was a piano in here, I'd show off all day long until you kick me out, but I am not singing. It's not going to happen. So
no worries. But so the fun fact is that you write jingles for Hollywood, right?
I have written music for TV commercials, and things like that. Yes, I have.
That's awesome. You're kind of like the modern day Renaissance man, right? You're dealing with the technology, the music, art. You don't get that.
The problem is you hit the two things I can do. There's really nothing else, so I don't know if that counts as Renaissance.
All right. Well, hey, I'd love to kind of ask if there's any closing comments. Lauren, Keith?
My closing comments. My closing comments would be this: that in trying to scale your business, definitely take a deep look inside yourself and see what you really, really think is important to you. It can be IT services, it can be HR services. It's a whole slew of things, especially in this economy, especially as things are getting tighter. Really look at your operation and things that you can do. I mean, it's almost a no-brainer because I don't know enough in terms of Maven. I'm just saying in general, it's really a no-brainer that if you can get the cost neutral with somebody else doing the work for you, then that's already a benefit because you're going to be saving on time, right? Going back to the soft cost. And then we add on this whole concept of risk management, the ability for the one throat to choke, right? Overused analogy. That is also very helpful. So as as Maven is scaling, if they're in your area, go look them up. If they're not, you should still think about what other types of companies can do that for you. Because I think especially now, we know that during recessions, the companies that thrive are the ones that survive. And what I tell my startups is you need to really be prepared to hunker down for up to 2 years. So that's my closing comment, is that really nothing should be a sacred cow. You should be able to look at anything you're doing and how can you do it better, faster, and cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said that any better. In fact, I'm probably
I have nothing to say, Keith.
Yeah, mic drop.
and full disclosure, I just met these guys, so I don't have any vested interest in this. But yeah, I mean that's what I have to say.
Yep.
Well, Keith, you're
full
coming.
disclosure, Keith, Charlie, and Aaron have never met before until just 15 minutes right before we started live, right? And so very small world that, obviously Keith came from the enterprise side, but, he was a part of Cisco. And yeah, very, very small world here.
I guess I have one closing comment, if I may, is to the franchisees listening. Don't do it yourself. Please don't.
Mm-hmm.
And I introduced you to franchisees that told us no up front and said, I'm not going to pay for this. I'm going to do it myself. And then they do their next store and they're saying, I'm not going to do this myself again. I'm not going to go through that. So why put yourself through it the first time? Just come to us in the first place and avoid all the frustration and focus on what you do best.
Yeah.
I love that. Hey, so I think Lauren and I are going to steal that as well from an HR perspective. Yeah, build out your HR infrastructure with us, tailor it with us first, outsource it with us.
What's funny is because we're doing franchise talks versus the wider SMB.
Yeah.
Think about the reason why you want to do a franchise in the first place, because you want a playbook, you want the security of that, and you want a known brand. So why would you pick a franchise for your core business, but then not think about how you could leverage other services because it would be consistent? Just think that way. Lauren, I think you wanted to close, right?
Oh, no. I mean, I think you always say everything I need to say or thinking and way, way better than me, Keith. So I have nothing more to say. I think that Maven IT is just a great, great option if you are a franchisee. If you're an SMB, I think one great thing with this show is we talk about franchises, franchisors. However, we love to talk business as a whole. And, you guys said it right on that when you are starting a business, do it right the first time, because 7 out of 10 businesses fail. And I think part of that is because they're just the thought that, I can do this all myself. But we talk about those people that are so successful. These companies are so successful. They learn really quickly on, or really early on, not to try to do it all themselves and to focus, as you said, Charlie, on what they do best, which is whatever it is that they do best. Let me do HR. This is what I do best. You do what you do best. We'll plug in Maven IT for the IT part. We've got Mandar for compliance. We've got Jonathan Barber from franchise law for your legal. Like there's all kinds of pieces here, but let the people that know what they're doing help you in that way. So that would be my closing commentary.
Yeah, I think you really touched on something that I wanted to talk about. Was Maven IT is not just for franchise systems. They are here for all SMBs as well. And same thing for, the franchise coffee chat. Although we do, touch on mainly franchises and franchise systems, what we're talking about truly is applicable for all small and medium-sized businesses. And we're happy to be a resource. We actually have a few really great coffee chats that are coming in the near future that are applicable to SMBs as well. So I look forward to that. Charlie, Aaron, thank you so much for your time today. This kind of concludes our session.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.